in January, we left Laredo, Texas, and crossed the border into Mexico. It was late in the afternoon, and we were welcomed with one of Mexico's fabulous sunsets. We stopped for a long look at it shining through a native palm and stood entranced, watching the warm and golden afterglow on the beautiful cloud formations. The floor of this, the Rio Grande Valley, is a barren region, almost desert-like in appearance. But as we get closer to the now distant mountains, the vegetation will change, and the brilliant green of this semi-tropical country become more evident. From the border to Mexico City is a distance of 780 miles, but we'll spare you the long drive and take you directly to the lovely palm-studded approach to the city. This modern 6-lane road runs into Avenida Insurgentes, which is one of the main thoroughfares, rather like Broadway in New York. And here, at the junction of Avenida Juarez, we get a fine view of the spire of the 44-story building, the tallest building in all of Mexico. And on this avenue, named after their great leader Juarez, stands the monument to the revolution. This masterpiece of modern architecture, 250 feet high, is one of Mexico City's most impressive landmarks. The four corners are dominated by these massive allegorical figures. This corner symbolizes independence and the other reform. On we go down the Paseo de la Reforma, the city's most beautiful street. Here you find the finest hotels and the most exclusive shops and restaurants. It is one of the newer streets and runs from the heart of the city southwest past these ultra-modern buildings into the exclusive residential section of Chapultepec Heights. Gabriel Babayan, the first Armenian to settle in Mexico, was born in Diarbekir in 1866 and arrived in Mexico in 1897. He died 16 years ago, but his oldest son, Victor, graciously allowed us to photograph the picture of his father. Mr. Victor Babayan, who very much resembles his father, introduced us to his charming wife, daughter, and their two sons. One boy is a medical student and the other a law student at the University of Mexico. Their good friend, Mr. Odebashian, whom you now see on the right, took us to their home, and we spent a lovely afternoon with the family. At the end of the Paseo de la Reforma, on a bluff overlooking the city, stands Chapultepec Castle. This was the ancient seat of the Aztec emperors. The viceroy, Galvez, had work begun on the castle in 1783, and it was completed in 1840. Emperor Maximilian made it his royal residence in 1866, and his empress, Carlotta, designed its lovely formal gardens. Until recently, it was the official home of the President of Mexico. Now it is a museum and displays the china glass, jewels and gowns of Carlotta and the uniforms, guns, and papers of Maximilian. Just returning from a trip, we now meet Mr. Garabed Hekimian, who came to Mexico from Lebanon in 1924. He and his lovely wife today live in the exclusive Polanco Heights section of Mexico City, in this large and beautiful home. Mr. Mr. Hakimian, for many years, has been associated with the textile industry. He speaks several languages fluently and is known for his many philanthropies, and he works long and hard in the interests of the Armenian people. And here is Mrs. Hakimian. Mrs. Hakimian and his daughter were there to greet him at the entrance to their home. He is president of the AGBU in Mexico, and we asked him to make arrangements for us to photograph the family and some of the AGBU members. And on the following afternoon, they gathered at his home. And here we see his wife, his daughter, his small grandchild, his mother and mother-in-law in the background, and his son. And now, we meet some of the members of the AGBU. These are some of the people who are doing so much to further the interests of the Armenians in Mexico. We decided to take a day off for a picnic and rest, but it turned into a busman's holiday. For here we are, photographing the floating gardens of Xochimilco. These gardens, 14 miles southeast of Mexico City, were once the home of the Aztec nobles. The Indians here still speak in the Aztec tongue. The area was originally a lake, but the Indians made huge rafts of twigs and reeds and anchored them in the water. They covered these rafts with earth and vegetation, which eventually took root and today gives the appearance of natural islands. This is Mexico City's favorite picnic area. You may rent a boat and be poled along the miles of waterways. No need to bring your lunch, for quaint cook boats draw alongside and cook a hot meal for you while you watch, and then they serve it to you in midstream. Boats with musicians will serenade you while you dine. And sometimes, when mellow with food and wine, friends and acquaintances lash their boats together as they are doing here and float down the stream in one happy group, dancing and singing as they go. One of the three famous Aracelian brothers in Mexico is Arturo Aracelian. Officially, he is in the shoe business, but he has taken a great interest in the arts. He still has a lovely tenor voice, but seemed more interested in introducing us to his family. We met them in their lovely garden. Mrs. Aracelian, their daughter Katia, a professional dancer who has her own school and teaches classical Spanish dancing to 70 pupils. Their small son, Arturo, and their younger daughters, Margarita and Rosemary. And here is Katia in Spanish costume, ready to dance for you in their beautiful patio. is the Pyramid of the Sun. Some 500 years before Christ, an ancient and unknown people built these pyramids 32 miles northeast of Mexico City. Today these ruins are known as Teotihuacan, or the Place of the Gods. This pyramid rises to a height of 217 feet and is 761 by 722 feet at the base. It is larger than the Egyptian pyramids and has 5 symmetrical terraces with this staircase leading to the top on one of the sides. Excavating is still going on, and each year archaeologists unearth more and more of these great ruins of a lost culture. Wandering in the cool shade of this dell, after an exhausting morning spent climbing up and around the ruins, we decided to stop for lunch. What happened? Well, the restaurant was in the bottom of a cave, and tired as we were, we had to go down 55 feet. And there, the flattest portion of the cave was being used for al fresco dining. The waiters were dashing back and forth through a small opening, and this proved to be another smaller cave which they used for a kitchen. It was charming and delightfully cool, and we enjoyed the rest in 4 miles northeast of Mexico City. Behind this flower-decorated arch stands the Church of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the most revered shrine in all of Mexico. During the month of January, pilgrims come from all over Mexico to worship and to be healed at this shrine. The vast plaza is crowded from dawn to dusk with worshipers. The main church stands impressive and firm on its foundation, but during the years, the older portion to the right has sunk 6 feet, and the entire building gives the impression of being on a tilt. The crowds here made picture-taking difficult, but we did get some of the penitents crawling toward the church on their knees. The accepted practice is to start at the Zocalo 4 miles away and to come the entire distance to the church on their knees. Sometimes entire families make the pilgrimage, even the very small children, and great miracles of healing are attributed to this shrine, and the faithful keep coming year in and year out in hope of cure for their illnesses and for renewal of their faith. To the left of the church is the great staircase, which rises 160 feet to the shrine itself. Crowded with worshippers and sightseers, all dressed in their Sunday best, they slowly climb to the top. There are benches placed at intervals where the less rugged individuals can sit and rest. The beautiful shrine at the top is well worth the hard climb, and the statues which adorn it most impressive. Back down in the plaza, we stopped to watch a group of costumed Indians do a ritual dance in honor of the dusky Virgin of Guadalupe. They come from their mountain villages, walking miles and miles, carrying their costumes on their heads, and this is a great day for them. The story goes that an Indian once had a vision, and the Virgin was revealed to him as an Indian maiden. And the Indians have made the Virgin of Guadalupe their very own, and give tribute to her in this unusual and beautiful manner. After a visit to the shrine, it is customary to take home a memento. And what could be more appropriate than a photograph? And so we see families having their pictures taken against a background of paintings of the Virgin and the saints as proof to all that the pilgrimage has been accomplished. Downtown, in the old business section of the city, the Kasayan brothers, Roston and Rafi, have their shoe manufacturing plant. We pause before these old doors, the modest entrance to their factory. It seems unpretentious, but gives no idea of the heavy production going on within. Their friend, Mr. Kasper Arkelian, had been kind enough to arrange things for us, and we went directly to their private office. On the left, we see Rostan Kasayan, the younger brother, who was born in Mexico. And next to him, Rafi Kasayan, the elder brother, who was born in Greece, with their secretary and Mr. Arkelian. Mr. Arkelian is in the retail shoe business, and there was a lively discussion going on. They were viewing samples of their new designs and getting Mr. Arkelian's opinion on what the retail market could most readily sell. We, of course, were more interested in how these shoes were made, and we were glad to follow Rafi into the factory, where he was needed to instruct an apprentice in the art of pattern laying. As you will note, great care must be exercised here. If the pattern is properly placed, there is almost no waste of leather. And this first process is of great importance. And then we were taken to the long tables, where workers were beveling the edges of the vamps. This second process ensures that the shoe will not look bulky where it is attached to the sole. Then we moved on to the third process. Here the men were busily stretching the vamps over these blocks. They are pulled onto the form and tapped and tugged into shape until a smooth and even fit is guaranteed. The fourth process, and a difficult one, is taken over by heavy-duty machinery. The machine grasps the vamp and staples it firmly to the sole of the shoe. As you have observed, this is the first heavy-duty machinery to be used, and the reason for this is a very good one, namely, the high price of the machines, which must be imported from the States, as the Mexicans do not manufacture their own heavy-duty machinery. The other reason is the cost of labor in Mexico is so very low that it is much cheaper to do the manufacturing by hand. The Kasayans employ about 78 people for the hand processes. Step number 5 again uses a machine. Here, under terrific heat and pressure, this process cements the soles to the uppers. It is a fast method used on this type of shoe to eliminate the sewing. The finished shoe now moves on to the machinery such as we see in the States. And here, the final trimming of the soles takes place. and the bottoms are stained and buffed. And then they are passed on to the final process. Now, in this colorful scene, the girls take over. We see them carefully spotting and touching up any minor imperfections. It is here that the shoes are given their final inspection, and then they are passed on to be boxed, and then the Kasayans ship them all over Mexico. In this building on Avenida Insurgentes are some of the finest antiques and rugs in all of Mexico. Just back from his home in Acapulco after a winter vacation, we met Mr. Juan Odabashian. Up in his office, looking gay and suntanned, he and his manager were checking on what had gone on during his month's absence. Mr. Odabashian, born in Erzurum and raised in Istanbul, came to Mexico in the early 1920s. He speaks many languages and is a witty, charming, and philosophical man. He was easily led away from his desk to do what he most enjoys, namely, to show the treasures which he has collected from all over the world. He has many of the fine pieces which came from the Maximilian collection, and this exquisite piano, done in gold leaf, is one of them. To prove that it is still in perfect condition, he tapped the keys. And his great love for beauty showed on his face as he carefully let down the hand-carved music rack. On one wall, he had this magnificent antique Saruk rug. We tried to photograph all of it, so huge that we finally settled on its fabulous center design with its softly glowing, beautiful color. This gold clock and candelabra are also from the Maximilian collection. Like a true artist, when we asked him the price of these treasures, Mr. Odabashian said that he had never put a price on them because he just can't bear to part with them. In a penthouse above his establishment, he lives in quiet elegance with his lovely Mexican wife, 2 sons, and his daughters. His well-mannered children spoke beautiful English, and Mrs. Odabashian has proceeded to learn Armenian, which she now speaks as well as Spanish and English. They frequently travel to the United States and Europe, and they knew more Armenians in New York than we did. Before saying goodbye, we took these last pictures of them happy and relaxed on their beautiful tiled roof patio. This was Mexico City for an appointment with Mr. Kerope Arakelian. Mr. Arakelian is owner of the colossal toy enterprise known as Jugueteria Ara. On one of the busiest corners of Avenida Insurgentes stands his ultra-modern 6-story building containing $1 million worth of toys. For Mr. Arakelian, is the toy king of Mexico. He both manufactures and retails throughout the country, as well as importing toys from all over the world. Standing in the doorway is his son Ara, who manages the Insurgentes branch. And near University City is his second store and vast warehouse. And here we meet Mr. Kerope Arakelian with his Armenian secretary in front of this modern and beautifully designed plant. This is a view of the store and warehouse where toys are stacked from floor to ceiling in block-long rooms. Then we watched some high chairs being transferred from the factory to the warehouse, for he is now expanding to include children's furniture in addition to his toys. And we went into the store to photograph the colorful items he had on display. We just couldn't resist the doll department. And the pyramid rack of colored rubber balls. And naturally, we took a turn through the action toy department. And, imported from Europe, these expensive and original displays, which were so unusual and amusing, that we thought that they'd be interesting to photograph while in action. And here, we see the little coffee-sipping Moor with his roving eyes. Then, the babies in their bassinet, behaving just about the way babies usually do. And now, the cute clown with his monkey waving Ara's flag. And finally, old St. Nicholas himself, who blesses all the good little children. We were so intrigued with him that we were almost late for an appointment at Mr. Arakelian's home, where the family were waiting to greet us. We photographed them in their garden. And first we see Mr. Arakelian, his wife, his daughter, his son Ara, his grandson, and his daughter-in-law. Not far from Mr. Arakelian's plant is famous University City. This is Mexico's seat of higher learning, and it cost 100 million pesos to build it. It is situated on 170 acres on the lava beds of El Pedregal. 30,000 students find everything from classrooms and living quarters to churches and theaters. They are all on the university grounds. There is no other university like it in the entire world. Tall, ultra-modern buildings cut into the sky. Each one is decorated with murals and the most intricate mosaic work. The enormous swimming pool is designed for Olympic competition, Beautiful statuary and fountains stand everywhere. It is about 20 years ahead of most modern architectural design. This is one of its outstanding buildings, done entirely in mosaic, and here is a close-up of its fine workmanship and artistic design. And this is a view of the Mammoth Stadium, which comfortably seats 100,000 people. We went to Tacuba, one of the busiest sections of Mexico City, to see one of the three famous Aracelian brothers, Mr. Gaspar Aracelian. In this famous ancient building in Tacuba, built in 1524, and at one time occupied by the great Spanish conqueror Cortez, Mr. Aracelian has his shoe store. It seemed rather incongruous to see this old building sporting a modern neon sign. But there, standing under it, stood Mr. Aracelian, waiting to greet us when we arrived. Handsome, isn't he? Mr. Aracelian is active in many Armenian organizations and very interested in all kinds of sports and athletics. Inside the shop, a customer was waiting. Now, business in Mexico is conducted in a leisurely and enjoyable manner. No hurry, no rush. Plenty of time to enjoy everything in this wonderful land of mañana. In Mexico, all customers are greeted like old friends and treated accordingly. And this makes shopping a most pleasant experience. The shop with its red damask banquettes was very elegant, and the salesgirl patient and obliging. And Mr. Aracelian stood by, smiling and joking, while his able assistant helped the young lady to make her choice. And shortly, a very pleased customer left the shop. But Mr. Aracelian has other business interests, and we were anxious to see how this versatile man spends his time when not occupied with his shoe store. This took us for a visit to Mexico's famous seaside playground, Acapulco. Mexico and bullfighting are synonymous. Bullfights are held on Sunday afternoons at 4 and always start with a parade of all the people who participate in the event. The bulls are specially bred for these fights and are vicious and dangerous beasts. All bullfights follow the same set pattern. 5 to 8 bulls are fought in one afternoon, and each fight is divided into 3 separate parts. The first part consists of passing or running of the bull by enticing him with the cape, and then the work of the picadors. The 2 picadors, mounted on horseback, each get one chance to prick the bull with a long-handled pick. The second part is the placing of the banderillas. Banderillas are short lances, gaily decorated with colored paper. They are placed 2 at a time into the neck of the bull. and last part consists of passing of the bull with the muleta, a small square of red cloth which covers the sword of the matador, and then the actual killing of the bull and dragging it from the ring. Watch carefully. 2 banderillas are being placed into the bull's neck. He has reached over the head of the bull between the horns, a most dangerous feat. The bull is now played again with the cape. Have to be quick and very sure-footed. That one almost missed. This man on horseback is the picador. He is piercing the neck of the bull with a long-handled pick. Meanwhile, the bull is goring the horse. Sometimes both horse and rider are overturned and seriously hurt. But the real bullfight aficionados enjoy the cape work the most. And they idolize the matadors who are graceful and agile. Now the bull is being played with the muleta, the sword covered with the red cloth, just before the kill. The day that we took these pictures, we were fortunate enough to see the famous matador Kawaya. And here he is, in our opinion, one of the finest and most graceful we've ever seen, light on his feet and fantastic with the cape. See him trying to get rid of the picks. The sword is now in the neck of the bull, but sometimes the sword does not enter a vital spot and kill instantly, as in this case. Then it must be removed and placed a second time. The assistant administers the coup de grace, removes the sword and the banderillas. The matador then dedicates the bull to the guest of honor and leaves the ring. And then the brave bull is dragged ignominiously from the scene by a pair of mules. A short distance from Mexico City, nestled into the mountains, is the beautiful city of Cuernavaca. It has a perfectly heavenly climate the year round. In the background, we get a glimpse of the tower of Cortes Palace, which is now a museum. And its narrow streets are bustling with shoppers and sightseers. and the shops are filled with handmade shoes and blouses, beautiful silverware and jewelry, and the prices are reasonable. From a rooftop, we look down on the tree-shaded plaza with its bandstand of unusual design. And we admired the lovely color and workmanship of the blue-green tile paths which wind through it. Bullfight pictures by native artists are peddled by vendors on the plaza. This one was shy but obliging. The Hotel Marriott stands on the plaza and has an outdoor restaurant and a sidewalk cafe. As we were having dinner, we looked up and to our amazement, we saw the sign of another Armenian, Mr. Albert Abkarian, who has his office in the Marriott Hotel. Mr. Abkarian is head of a real estate company which builds fabulous modern homes on the outskirts of the city. He was born in New York and is a graduate of Cornell University, and he came to Mexico 10 years ago. After several years in the import and export business, he turned to the real estate field, and for the last 3 years has been associated in developing Las Delicias estates. Albert Abkarian knows everyone, and everyone knows him. He's virtually a one-man chamber of commerce for Cuernavaca, this fast-growing suburb of the capital. During our visit, this American couple, a doctor and his wife from New Jersey, came to his office looking for some property. Out came the maps of Las Delicias estates, and a prolonged discussion began as to the desirability or special advantages of the various plots. They finally decided to see the property at first hand, and Mr. Abkarian suggested that we all drive out to the development together. We were so pleased, as we were anxious to see the homes about which we had heard so much. The Abkarians live in the Delicia Estates development, and we drove directly to their home. It is a rambling, ultra-modern, ranch-type house built of native stone and brick. There are magnificent gardens behind these flower-covered walls, and a wonderful view of the mountains in the distance. Mrs. Abkarian came out to greet us in the garden, and we photographed her with her husband against this background of lovely flowers. Then the children joined us on the patio, and we snapped this charming family picture of them, happy and relaxed beside their swimming pool. And here is Mrs. Abkarian with her 2 darling little girls, Kim and Joanna. The terrace overlooks the swimming pool and the garden, which the Abkarians simply adore. They have 3 gardeners who are constantly kept busy, and they keep the grounds looking just like a park. Everything grows so profusely. The scarlet bougainvillea vine trailed over the wall, and the roses and hibiscus were breathtakingly lovely. These are some specimen plantings, and Cuernavaca's rich soil produces these magnificent blooms. And the beauty of it is, they bloom the entire year round in this wonderfully balmy climate. And here are some of the homes built by Mr. Abkarian's firm, and a general view of the development known as Las Delicias Estates. Should you contemplate retirement, nothing could be lovelier than one of these charming homes in beautiful Cuernavaca, with its fine mild climate the year round. And you'll never want for company, for Cuernavaca has one of the largest American colonies in all of Mexico. And this, my friends, getting into the boat, is Philip Boyajian, your photographer, in the only picture we took of him, enjoying a day's fishing with a friend at Lake Tequesquitengo, just a short distance from Cuernavaca. Off they went. But this definitely wasn't his day, as you can see by the catch. Or maybe his hat just scared the fish off. In being the first Americans to get a picture of Lopez Mateos, the presidential candidate who was on a campaign tour. He has since then been elected president of Mexico. The Indians in their colorful costumes had come to greet him. The gentleman in the middle holding the cigarette is Mr. Victor Schaffer, head of the Revolutionary Party, which was sponsoring Mateos. He obligingly made all the arrangements for us to take these pictures in Izmiquilpan, a small town about 40 miles from Mexico City. First came the opening parade. Was followed by the rancheros on their beautiful horses. And then the float carrying Lopez Mateos. And here he is. Lopez Mateos, the President of Mexico, accompanied by the town's most beautiful senoritas. He's charming and democratic, and the crowds just went wild.